Amen, say man. This is the A-Man Show, back at it again for more content. The Chargers have ended Week 8 on a good note against the Chicago Bears of all people, but that win still doesn't exempt them from making this video. The NFL trade deadline is over, and some of the teams that are struggling right now may struggle like this for the rest of the season, and one of those teams are the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers are 3-4 right now, and the fact that this team with all of the talent on the roster is 3-4 by the time I'm making this video going into Week 9 is absolutely, honestly mind-blowing to me, and this without a shadow of a doubt shows why in this video, the Los Angeles Chargers are the most underwhelming team in the NFL. But first, make sure y'all subscribe. I post NBA and NFL content. Turn on post notifications so that way y'all don't miss anything new from me. Anyways, stay tuned and let's get the video started. The Chargers have been in the discussion for Super Bowl talks for the past 2 seasons now, and they not only were short on the expectations set for them, but the Chargers have wet the bed every single time. Let's look back to the 2020 season where I actually included the Chargers in that disappointing video I did a while back. The reason why I put them on the list is because the defense was projected to be a top 10 defense going into the 2020 season. Hell, I even saw people rate them as the best in the NFL at one point. But of course, it was far from the fucking truth. Statistically, they had a bottom 10 defense. And yes, injuries does play a part into why the Chargers defense were ass. But even when everybody was healthy, they were below average at best, which is a far cry from the expectations of them being a top 10 defense. Offensively, sure, they had a lackluster offensive head coach in Anthony Lynn, but for a defense especially coached by Gus Bradley, who has a proven track record that he can be a very solid DC along with the talent of Casey Hayward, Chris Harris Jr., Desmond King, along with Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram, this team was supposed to be a divisional round contender in the AFC, but they were far from it. And if it wasn't for Justin Herbert's historic rookie season, the Chargers would have just won 4 games. So after that year, the Chargers shipped Anthony Lynn out of Los Angeles, and they went ahead and hired former Rams DC Brandon Staley, who is now the current head coach for this team. Staley was the one who helped develop Jalen Ramsey into the best corner in the league at the time, and he led a top defense in the NFL in 2020. And in the 21 draft, the Chargers selected Rashawn Slater, who's one of the best tackles in the game, and a very solid corner in Asante Samuel Jr. People thought it was a great hire as they thought that he can fix this struggling Chargers defense and propel them towards a playoff team in the AFC. At least we thought so, because that year the Chargers offense has improved, with Justin Herbert being 2 times better than his rookie season, but the defense has not. They had statistically one of the worst run defenses in the NFL overall, one of the most absolute anus defenses in all of football. They allowed the 3rd most rushing yards in the league that year and the 3rd most rushing TDs. Teams averaged a whopping 5 yards per carry against them and allowed the most first downs in the league. So basically, Staley has done nothing towards this defense, even though the defense is lacking in talent. The Chargers will finish the year with a 9-8 record after losing in overtime against the Raiders. Like I said, Justin Herbert had another historic year, but then again, wasn't enough to get a playoff spot. Going into this infamous 22 offseason, the Chargers had the offseason for the ages where they acquired Khalil Mack. They also signed J.C. Jackson on a 5-year, $82 million deal, and during that time was a great deal because Jackson was regarded as a top 3 corner in the game at one point. They also brought in Sebastian Joseph Day, who was impactful for the Rams' run defense. In the 22 draft, they selected Zion Johnson with the 17th pick, who has been a very impactful rookie guard for the Chargers last year and still is that solid guard for the Chargers. They brought in all of these guys to improve their horrid defense in 2021, and they only improved marginally. The offense has been lackluster at times, all due to Joe Lombardi, and also the injuries to Keenan Allen and Mike Williams doesn't help either. and defensively, they were never elite to even begin with. Khalil Mack had a down year, and JC Jackson especially has been so disappointing that he was benched during the second half against the Broncos in Week 6 that year. Even with the issues I have about this roster, they still had a 10-7 record and made it to the wildcard game, and in that matchup they faced against the 9-8 Jaguars team. In this infamous playoff game, the Chargers were up 3 touchdowns against the Jaguars going into the second half before blowing that lead, and Trevor Lawrence led the fire to beat them 31-30. And that goes to show you how absolutely underwhelming this Chargers team is. They have the talent to really make a run at a Super Bowl, granted all the acquisitions they made in the 2022 offseason, but somehow, in some way, they never seem to get over the hump nor meet expectations. So as a result, we, including myself, lowered our expectations for this team from being a Super Bowl contender to a mere playoff contender going into this current season. Even though they drafted one of the highest rated wide receiver draft prospects in Quentin Johnston, even though he's been anus so far, they also acquired Eric Kendricks, who has regressed over the seasons, but he is still a very good linebacker in this league. And so far this season, they can't even live up to this standard because they are on pace to miss playoff potentially entirely with this talented of a roster. In the first game, the Dolphins had a field day against this defense. Then on week 2, lost to a lowly Titans team. The defense can't even stop Derrick Henry or even Ryan Tannehill of all people. They barely won against shitty teams such as the Raiders and Vikings. The Chargers defense couldn't stop Dallas nor Kansas City offense, and even on offense during the last 3 games during the second half, the Chargers went scoreless at times, and even Justin Herbert has struggled to complete passes throughout the games, all due to receiver play, and also the O-line has struggled during the second half also, and defensively is even worse. They are 24th in the league in allowed points per game, 29th in yards per play, and 25th in EPA. There is no literal reason why this defense is so anus besides that Bears game. They give up so many points and they just got beat so badly in the passing game, and only Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa are the ones who are making the most plays on defense. The rest of these guys are downright anus. Kenneth Murray has been dog shit, especially on coverage. Asante Samuel Jr. has actually been one of their more brighter spots on the secondary. Derwin James has been absolutely disappointing, and offenses have been picking him apart like crazy. And also, the guy has been committing too many penalties, and some of them have costed this team games. The man has to be more disciplined and just play better. It's unlike Derwin James, especially in coverage, and also especially when he's regarded as the best safety in football for the past 3 years now. So, Derwin James has been absolutely underwhelming so far this year. We can talk about how underwhelming this roster is. We can talk about that all fucking day. But at the end of the day, fucking Brandon Staley deserves all the blame in the world. This is the man who was supposed to revitalize this defense. This is the man who was supposed to lead this team to potentially a Super Bowl appearance, if I'm not mistaken. But throughout the years, the man got exposed outright. When he was a Rams DC, the guy had Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, 2 of the best players at their position. And with that scheme that he had back then, despite the many flaws, he was able to get away from that defensive scheme where the D-line was mostly forefront of their run defense, and Aaron Donald was Aaron Donald. And the secondary played in heavy man coverage. And Jalen Ramsey was the best in the league in man coverage back in 2020. However, now as a head coach, the man is trying to use the same scheme with the D-line involving Sebastian Joseph Day, and he's trying to do the same thing with JC Jackson as he did with Jalen Ramsey. And we all know how it turned out. It's clear that Brandon Staley doesn't have the personnel to run his same scheme while he was with the Rams, and he refuses to make adjustments. And not just that, the defense is undisciplined, especially the secondary. They commit too many penalties, and that falls under Brandon Staley. And the worst part is that the man refuses to relinquish the play call duties to his defensive coordinator. And also, the man is known for making way too many aggressive calls on 4th downs. We saw that against the Raiders in Week 17 2 seasons ago, where the play call not only costed them the game, but the season. That year, he was tied for 3rd in the league for the most go-for-it play calls, and throughout the next 2 seasons, the man has not changed since then. It's one thing that you're 3-4 because your team simply does not have any talent. But if you have one of the most talented rosters in the league at your disposal and you're 3-4, that's no one's fault but Staley's. Now, I'm not saying that Staley is a horrible coach by any means, but he's not a good one for sure. Staley has proven in the last 2 years with the Chargers that he has benefited from the likes of Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, and them guys helped him get a head coaching position with the Chargers, and I cannot tell you how many times this man got exposed. Now, this Bears win does give a slimmer of hope a little bit, but still, I'm not too confident in Staley whatsoever, and I just don't see the Chargers really going anywhere with Staley leading this team, especially in this tough AFC. The dude is not a true head coach in the NFL, and him being on the helm of this team further proves to everyone that they are truly a poverty franchise. Mind you that this franchise hasn't made it to a Super Bowl appearance since 1995. It's been 28 years since then. So the Los Angeles Chargers has been one of the most disappointing teams in the NFL for the past 3 years. They have underperformed to expectations every year, and that is all because of Brandon Staley. This situation further proves so much how important it is for teams to have a great coach. If you don't have a good coach, it doesn't matter how talented your roster is. You can only go so far with a mediocre coach, and that is what we're seeing with the Los Angeles Chargers. And that's the video. What are your thoughts on this vid? Will Brandon Staley keep his job after this season? Let me know in the comment section below, and make sure y'all subscribe for more NBA and NFL content in the future. Road to 1000k subs, turn on post notifications, and that is all. Stay litty. This is the A-Man Show. Sign out.